I guess we're going to find out. Hey, everybody. We're
Hello.
mid-convo over here.
Just diving right in.
Yeah, we were discussing what we were going to talk about today, and we have an idea, but there might be multiple topics. Who knows? We took a little break, and now we're back. I feel like that was important. I think this is something that everybody should know, but third lines in particular, that sometimes stuff starts to feel like you have to do it. And when it starts to feel a little bit like that, you should take a break. You don't have to burn it down or like do the third line bond broken forever thing with most stuff if you just take a break. I've noticed this for myself.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing people don't really understand about third lines who aren't third lines. Like the bond made and broken, just a break is kind of breaking a bond. It's like you have to step back for a minute and then come back to it. It's not like you just break up with people and never talk to them again. It's like, hey, this thing isn't working right now. Let's
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
and I didn't
that's
even realize how much I needed a break until you're like, we'll be fine. Let's take a week off.
yeah, it was like I was like, okay, we have to record, let me find a date, what are we going to talk about? And as soon as I started to feel like heaviness, I went, hey, we've recorded. In my head I said we've put out 17 episodes straight, 17 weeks, like we
Serious?
deserve a break. Yes,
We've
17.
done good.
That's a lot. That's what that really helped me when I thought that. I was like, wow, we actually are probably overdue for a break and we haven't done it because we were so excited about this thing and we are getting guests and we're like, yes, come talk to us. Oh, I have this idea for this. And then it was rolling along. And I think we like rolled past where we probably should have just been like, oh, maybe we should have taken a break, but not very much past because I think we both felt it and noticed it. And we're like, let's take a break.
Yeah.
But I mean, we weren't gone very long and now we have a ton of shit to talk about. So, and I wonder if that's good. I wonder if that helps the 11 too, gate 11, like stoke back up its, because I know when I read about 11, it's always like, you will never run out of ideas for as long as you live. You always have ideas forever and ever and ever. And they're just overflowing in your mind. And what are you going to do? And I don't always have ideas. So I freaked. I was like, am I not doing 11 right? Like, I don't always have ideas. Come on. And so I realized I think, especially for projectors, especially for mental projectors, the burnout burns out all the parts, pieces, all of them.
Yeah.
And your 11 can burn out. And it's like, well, I'm tired of giving you ideas. We're done. You get no ideas.
Well, and like I think about gate 47, like I realize that part of that is stepping away from the processing. And once you give it space, then the realization can come through. So it makes sense with 11 too, or maybe even any gate coming off the ajna. Like
Yeah.
stop trying to think about it so much and make that thing happen, give it the
And do
space.
you have 47?
Yeah, that's my sun gate.
And that's why that's another thing is you hook up my head. You
Yeah.
activate my crown. And
Yes.
so maybe it's like crown is tired. My crown needed a break. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I just remember because I've been telling you I've been thinking about the ajna lately because it's always like, oh, define ajna. You're when you're certain, you're certain. When you know, you know. And I'm like, no, sir. I don't trust that that's true. How do you know? How do you know that you know? Like I get like real into my head about like how can people be certain about things? And so I've decided a couple of things. One, I'm going to look at the ajna and my gates because I have 11 and 43. And I also was like, oh, I have this 64 up here and this hanging gate for like this 47 is not defined, but the 64 is reaching down. So maybe I should look at the 47 too. But I also think I need to, and I don't have doubt, but it helps me to have proof. I've noticed this if I can prove things to myself. Like I was like, we did this 17 times. We need a break. That was proof to me. Like, look at this thing. And the proof for me is I need to look back at the times where I really felt like I was certain. There's not that many times.
Yeah. Well, I think for me,
like, it's hard.
something I've realized personally is I don't believe in mental certainty. Like there's not just mental certainty. It comes in different flavors for different people. And
Yeah.
life is not certain, like ever.
Mhm.
And I see this a lot with people who come to me or ask questions about human design, and they want some kind of certainty. Like, what is, I'm a
Yes,
1-3,
no, black, white.
yeah. Like, I'm a 1-3 emotional generator. What's a good career for me? I don't know, love. Like,
Your guess is as good as mine. Oh, I get that too when people want answers.
yeah.
It's like, that's not really what this is. But we both have the defined ajna, so there's a part of us that really is seeking out the answer, you know?
Yes. So the way that I see it is that my certainty is going to be different than your certainty because of the flavoring. Like I have the 47 in my son with the 1156, right? So
Yeah.
going to be specific things, specific realizations that I have. You have the 1156 and the 43. So there's going to be different things for you in your processing. You're here to be mentally certain in a different way than I am. That's how I see it.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's that one was a weird one I thought about the other day, and I was like, oh. And I agree with you. The word certain is certain, and certainty is very like, it's very extreme to me because it's like one all on to one side. And when I say extreme, this happens a lot when me and Sean are arguing, I'll be like, you're having extreme wording right now, or you're using extreme words. And to him, that means like extreme bad, like, oh, this is extremely terrible. But for me, when I say extreme, it means the word is like always, never. They're on one side. They don't have any wiggle room. And to me, certainty doesn't really have a whole lot of wiggle.
Yes, yes.
Which that's why I'm like, how? Well, I get there.
I feel like when we get to those extremes, like you were saying, like every time, like you do this all the time or whatever.
I never say that.
Well,
I mean, oh, God damn it. I just said
what
it.
I'm saying is like, yeah, like doing that. That's where it's a big clue of some story that you have. Like that's a not self thing that's come up, or that's something where like when you were 5, something happened and you created this in your mind, right? Like great point to go into reflection when we get that universalization.
Yeah, you're totally right. I try really hard not to say those. I rarely say it. That's what I go with, is rarely.
Yeah.
Rarely and almost always. I throw those in whenever I'm talking, because to me, that, like I said, the terms never and always don't apply in very many instances at all when you're speaking to another person. Because that's just not how life, just like you said, life isn't like that. Like there's always, and it's so funny because at the same time, whenever sometimes me and Sean will be having a discussion and he likes to harp on the very rare thing that might happen to like one person. And I'm talking about like the majority of people. And it's hard. I'm like, you're talking about, he's like, but that's still there. I'm like, I understand. But any option you choose in life is going to have this extreme. If this happens and lightning strikes twice in this spot and this random thing happens, yeah, something terrible might happen to a very small amount of people, maybe. But that's for all choices in life. You kind of, to me personally, I skew towards what's best for most people. I think that's a very projector way too, is to be like, what's best for most people. And we're collective, but so independent stuff happening in there. So to me, it's like it's up to us individually to take care of the group, but you're in charge of yourself. But do what's best for everybody if you can. Yeah, we get these weird talks, man, where he like hangs on to this, and I'm like, babe, like the odds of that happening are so astronomically tiny. He's like, but what if? I can't argue that with you, because you're right. It's a possibility. Oh my God, he's possibility view.
Is he?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, that explains it.
Well, now we can just start talking about views. Is it called view all the time? Is there another name for it?
Perspective, I think.
Yeah. I'm like, I've heard it called something else. Are you drinking coffee?
Yes,
I don't know why I got so happy.
Well, because I rarely ever drink it, but I
I
really want
know.
to try the pumpkin foam cold brew
Uh-huh.
because I've just been
That shit.
curious. And so I decided I went and did a little quick thrift store run this morning before we met. And so it's like, I'm gonna get coffee and go to the thrift store because
That sounds amazing.
and I have to show you.
Okay. I'm excited. You guys, she never drinks coffee. So like, yes, she's drinking caffeine. Oh, that's so cute.
Isn't it? And then I'm looking at it. It is a Coach bag that I got for $5.
Wow.
I
Look
was
at
like,
you find.
I was like getting up to the line. I'm like, please don't figure out it's a Coach bag and charge me more. So I'm like trying to be
You're
cool.
like, look at this no-name bag. And it's just so
Like, I just
plain.
found this bag.
I might paint it or put glitter on it, because it's pretty. Nobody.
Yeah, so I'm gonna clean it up.
Oh my
And
God.
oh my gosh, I'm so excited. It's so pretty.
That's happened. Have you ever gone to a store and an item that you chose had the wrong price? And when you get up to there, you realize that that's true, but it's less than what you would have paid for. So you don't say anything. And you're just like, please don't know that this is $1 less than what it said up there. And then you get it and you're like, yes. And you feel bad for like a second, but then it's like, that person's not going to get in trouble. And it's like $1. It's not like I was buying a car or anything.
Right.
But I feel like the same way with how you feel. You're just like, here. And the reason I'm doing this and putting it on the conveyor belt is because this is before they had self-checkout when this happened to me.
Oh.
And so it's been a long time. And you have to give the things. And I was like, wonderful weather we're having, right? And I was being so like, because I'm a terrible liar. I'm the worst fucking liar. And so if I know something and they don't know that thing, but I also know in my head, like, they're not going to get in trouble. Like, I'm not stealing. It just rang up for a different price. I didn't know I was going to do that. It dinged and there's a different price. I'm like, oh.
Well, and I also found this Dooney and Burke bag because like my inner 12-year-old is just obsessed, right? With Dooney and Burke and Coach, that was like my dream. And
it's back now though, because all this shit's back. You carry that Dooney and Burke, someone's gonna be like, what vintage D&B?
I know. And that one didn't have a price. So I'm just like, again, chill. I'm like, oh, this one didn't have a price. So I don't know. And she's like, oh my gosh, Dooney and Burke. And she's like nerding out. And she's like, I'm gonna have to do $12.99. Is that okay? And I'm like, sure. I'm like casually drinking my coffee. I'm like, whatever.
Well, I guess I can swing that.
But somehow she didn't catch the Coach. And so it's like you were saying, like part of me felt bad on the way out. I'm like, did I just steal?
No. No, it was used items. You're great. I love it. And when you carry it, you're gonna be like, oh, look at my bag. Look at what I did. Yeah, that's how I get.
Yeah. Well, and I live in this like upper middle class place, right? And so all the other moms, like at the basketball games, are walking in with their Louis Vuittons and their Golden Goose shoes and like all their designer because they're stay-at-home moms and their husbands are rich. And I'm like the only single mom. So
I think those Golden Goose shoes are ugly.
Oh my gosh. But they're everywhere here.
I know. And they're like $3 million bazillion.
I don't understand that one.
It doesn't, I mean, I get they're supposed to look distressed and I get that that's cool. But some of the styles Sean showed me, I was like, these look like legit dirty shoes.
Yeah. Well, I kind of like some of the glitter ones, right? But if they were like $50, like that would be a stretch for me, right? But I'm like, maybe I could get behind this, like for some of the
and I'm sure you can find some that you like that look very similar that are a different brand that are way cheaper.
Walmart always has a good dupe, honestly.
Yeah. When they're that far from your eyes, they're all the way on the ground, you can't really tell.
Yeah. And I've finally gotten to the point where like if I'm subbing at the high school and a kid calls me out for having a dupe, I'd be like, yeah, I don't care. Instead of like,
I bought this myself. Who bought that for you? Your mommy?
Right.
See, I'd get fired. I would just get fired. I'm sure you can't say stuff like that to children.
I do have a Louis Vuitton dupe that I brought to school, and the kids, like the girls, were like, "Oh my gosh, Coach Davila, I love your bag." I'm like, "Thanks, I know." I'm like, "I'm gonna keep it back here. You can't get too close."
That's awesome. That's so good. Well, good. I'm glad we had great mornings.
Yes, yes. So that, and I found like this really gorgeous mirror. Um, it's funny, I don't really carry purses all that often, but like
I
they
don't.
are just gorgeous and I love them.
No,
So
if you're gonna, this is the thing, if you're gonna carry it, then it doesn't matter what it is or if it's impractical or whatever. If you're gonna, when I got married, I was like, hey, how tight can you make this dress? I don't want to breathe. Like, I don't care if it's excruciating for 10 hours, I don't give a shit. Like, this is how it's gonna look. And I could sit, but it was like this.
oh my
And
God.
I ate like this.
Yeah.
And the whole time I was just like, it was I didn't want to take it off. Like, I was like, can I sleep in this dress? And Sean goes, no.
You're like, I'm just gonna live in this from now on.
Like, isn't it uncomfortable? I go, do I look uncomfortable? And he goes, no. And I go, well, I am, but I don't give a shit. Like, it was great. But that's how I feel about style and clothes and fashion is if you're so excited to wear it that you're just like, yes, yes. I don't care how impractical it is. I don't care what you paid for it. I don't care what it looks like. If you're like, I'm so excited to be wearing this thing, go for it. You wear that thing.
Yeah, for
When
sure.
people aren't excited and they wear stuff that's uncomfortable, that's when I'm like, what are you doing? Like, at least be comfortable.
But it's designer.
Like high-heeled shoes. I have
I
like 3 or 4 pairs and I haven't worn them since like 2019.
haven't worn high heels since my second wedding, I don't think. But I used to love them.
Me
Like,
too.
I was in college and I would give a speech. I would wear high heels because I just felt like it gave me that boost of confidence. I felt good. I loved it.
Yes.
And now I'm like, it will be sneakers.
Yeah. I wore them, the last time was 2019 to my brother's wedding. I wore heels. I still have, and I look at that because I have like 3 or 4 pairs that are packed away and I'm like, maybe I should get rid of these. But I know I'm going to have to go to something like a wedding or something where, just like you said, I would feel better personally in my ensemble if I had like some, because I can walk in heels good and I got pretty long legs. So it's like, I know how much it helps for the dressing up.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm not going to dress up unless you make me. I love comfort, but I also like cute stuff. I don't carry purses because I don't like to have stuff in my hands. So I wear fanny packs or like backpacks because then it's attached to my body somehow.
I love that fanny packs are back, honestly, but like they wear them on the chest.
I don't do that. My 6 line says that looks stupid and I wears it the way that it is intended. I don't care if I look old. That to me, I feel bad judging people for their choice, but anytime I see that, I'm like, you look dumb.
You're like,
in my head. Even people I like, even my friends who show up at something, I'm like, it looks really dumb. But okay, I guess that's how we're wearing it. It just feels like, to me, when I see it like that, it feels like it's the apocalypse and like you are strapped in and locked and loaded and there's like ammunition in here and like we're going out. Like, this feels way too prepared for some sort of disaster.
oh my God,
looking really dumb and like you just threw it on, like casual but also disaster. I don't know, I can't explain it.
that is so funny. Okay, so I'm trying to put this together because so you have you have a Taurus rising, right? And Taurus is all about like things looking good and feeling good.
Yeah.
And my kid, my youngest manifester, is a Taurus. And one day I gave my older son, we were going somewhere, and I was like, here, use this fanny pack. I guess we are gonna go walk anyway. I gave my kid a fanny pack so he could just put his phone in there and we could walk around the park. So it not in like the pocket of his shorts where it's gonna fall out. Yeah. And I was like, here, just put it on like this. Because like, honestly, I kind of like it. I think it's
Sean wears it like that.
So, yeah.
It's a very personal, weird view I have.
No, I was about to say my younger son, who's the Taurus, he's like, he looks at me and he's like, are people wearing it like that?
Like, yes,
right?
All of the people.
I'm like, yeah, that's what they do.
I agree. They wear their supreme fanny pack across their chest.
Oh yeah.
Did he put it around his waist?
No, he kept it on his chest like that.
But he was like, what do you guys
Yeah, well, my oldest son doesn't really care, but he's just now starting to figure out style. So I think he was like trying out because I'm like, this is the style now. Like, this is what it looks, this is what people are doing. So I think he was just trying it out.
I can't imagine having boys because I'm sure they never cared about any of this stuff until like now. Like girls and style probably come at like the same
Oh gosh.
time, or maybe not girls, theys, thems, boys, whatever. But that kind of stuff I feel like happens at the same time where they're
It,
like, oh, they start thinking about what they look like. Boys anyway.
guys like haven't, but my manifester kiddo in the past year, he's really been amping up his style and being really specific about it. And then we finally took my oldest this summer, we took him shopping and like styled him. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was cute because Oliver was like
Oh,
telling Matthew what to wear. He's like, you want to wear these colors together, not these, or
you
all
should
that.
have made a montage, a
Oh my
makeover
gosh.
montage.
It was so cute. I wish I would have. And
So
then
funny.
the shirts we found for him, like he started wearing them all the time, even if we weren't going anywhere. He would just wear his button-up shirt
Oh.
and started to care a little bit more. Like we got him nice shoes. I'm like, you're going to college. It's time to start thinking about this stuff. And so it's really cute. He's actually putting thought into it now.
Oh, Sean is gate 22. His son gates 22, so he's very I've never dated or been with dated. He's my husband. I've never been with a guy who cared about clothes really at all. Like, and it's just funny
Yeah.
because he cares about it more than I do. He takes longer to pick out his outfit than I like. He'll go to start picking out his outfit when he knows I have more time to get ready because he takes time. I'm
Mm,
like, what's the most comfortable? What haven't I worn in the last few days? This, let's go. But
yeah.
he's very much like shoes, go with the socks and go with the this.
Putting it all
And
together.
it's cute. He's like, Janelle, does this shirt look better or this? And then I'll tell him what I think goes because like I'm really pretty good at like color going. Like a
Mhm.
lot, I've tried to teach him. I'm like, a lot of stuff goes together that you don't think would go together. But you just, when you put it next to each other, what does it look like? Like when you look at it, are you like, oh, this goes? Or you're like, ah. Like that's how you figure it out. And I also told him because he would have a hard time with like tones, like
Mm.
how almost all bright neon colors go together. Almost all pale colors go together. But when you try to match neon with pale, you got to pay attention to what color family you're in because it might look wool. I have like it's weird that you said that about the Taurus thing because I'm very like what goes together and what doesn't go together.
Yeah.
And when it comes to decor and decorating, I've told you this, he's like more is more is more, 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 more.
Mhm.
And I'm like, and he's like minimal. He's like, you just want white hospital walls. I'm like, no, I just don't need to cover every inch with like knick-knacky shit.
What is his cognition?
He's oh God, I think we've talked about this. Nervous touch, right? That's a cognition, or is that the wrong thing?
Um, Wait, that's the determination.
Oh,
So
oops.
what's the tone under that?
Oh, see, underneath. What are the name tones? And I'll be able to tell you.
So the determination is what you just said, and then the cognition. So the top left arrow, the one in the triangle.
What's yours?
Mine is inner or outer vision.
Oh, okay. That's what, see, I just needed to know. So it's inner vision, outer vision, smell, taste, all those things.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. That's
Okay.
once I hear a word that goes with the category of things, I'm like, okay, that's where we are.
Yeah.
And then I remember, like, I put them all in categories. Otherwise I'll forget like where things go. I have to find his chart. He is wait, what am I, his cognition? He's inner vision like me.
Oh,
Oh,
cool.
I don't think I knew that. Maybe I did and I just forgot. But yeah, we're both inner vision.
What is the one under his environment?
Environment style? Or what do you
No, it doesn't call it out. Just what's the number?
oh, under his environment?
Yeah. Like if you look at,
The bottom left arrow,
yeah.
right? There's a
Yeah.
4 and a 1.
Okay. Oh, so he's double inner vision?
I guess
Is
that's
his
what
inner
that
vision
is.
for both?
Sure. I don't know.
Is it 4 on both the
No, it's a 4 and a 1.
okay.
Does that help?
I can't see anything. Okay, yeah, both of his tones are 4. So yeah.
Okay. So triangles, 4 in the green triangle.
Yes. Okay, I'm just curious because I've been reading about this a lot lately. Like this has been my latest focus. And one of the things with the touch cognition was wanting to have a lot of things because it's like you just want to be able to touch your environment all the time. So I
Makes
was
sense.
curious if we had that. But I love how both of y'all have inner vision, and I just think that's cool.
Yeah, that's another weird one. And that's underneath, like those arrows that everybody always is like, what are the arrows? What are the arrows? What are the arrows? What are the 4 arrows? We've talked about 2. We're going to talk about 2 again, but there's stuff underneath those. So it's not just these 4 things. There's layers.
There's layers upon layers.
This is where I almost like stopped because I was like, this is just too much information. I don't know how much. That's why when she's talking about the things under and the numbers, I'm like, I have not gone that far. I know the words, and sometimes I know the energy around the words, but the technical, like looking at the chart and going, oh, this is how I see this because of these things. I know right arrows and left arrows. That's what I got.
Yeah. Honestly, that's what I love about this system. It's like you can go as deep or as shallow as you want because even the surface level is super deep. So, and
I love how you have this, like, I don't know if it's like confidence or comfortability. Comfortability? Is that even a word? I don't know. It sounds weird that you have about taking a piece of this of human design and just like going like right in the mountain all the way down to the bottom. And I'm like, I'm gonna stay up here and practice on the bunny slopes. And you're like, no, I'm double black diamonding this shit right now.
Like, I'm going in. I'll come back and tell you what I learned.
It's cool though. I like it because there's like a certain part of me that feels like I have to control the level of like how deep I go into these things. I think a little bit of me is afraid that I'm gonna get over it or like get burnt out from human design again and be like, I can't do this thing anymore. And then I'll need to take another break. And it's like, I don't know what it is, but it's a lot of times I don't even know if maybe I'm just not as interested as you are. I think your first line really gives you that, like,
I was about to say, let's remember I'm majority 1 line
and I'm like 1 line.
Yeah. And that fear motivation, it like really is what drives it. That's
true.
Yeah, that's honestly, it's something that has given me a lot of peace about this aspect of myself and to have a better relationship with the learning, because before it would be very much about, I have to learn all these things so that I can be better, so that I can know enough, like that insecurity that drives the 1 line. It was very much insecurity based. And now it's just more like, oh, here's what's drawing my focus now. Let's build a foundation here. And it's not about coming from a place of lack. It's just like, oh, this is what
I want to learn about this for me because I think this is cool.
Exactly. And it helps me to not be so weird about it. Like I would kind of judge myself. One time the same doctor that told me I had PTSD from my marriage, I was like going into him a couple times to have follow-ups. And I was reading a biography about Albert Einstein's wife at the time, because I didn't read fiction for the longest time. And he's like, maybe you should like read something fun instead of this. And I was like, this is fun. Like it was fun for me, but it's not fun for the majority of people. So I would judge myself like I was weird.
If I saw somebody reading a nonfiction book like that, I'm like, oh my God, this person is so smart. They're learning as a hobby. Right? I'll come home and Sean will be watching like random ass history channel shows about King Tut or whatever. And he'll be like into it. And I'm like, do you give a shit? Like history to me is automatic. I'm going to sleep. Like I do not care. It's the past, for gosh darn sake. Who cares about the past? I don't. So I can't, like, history is the worst. He's tried to get me into some of his shows, and I'm just like Oak Island to me is historical, even though I don't, it's right now they're doing, but it's all about old shit that I don't care.
Wait, is that the one where they're like
Curse of Oak Island, yeah, but they never find anything ever for like a million seasons. They're just digging.
We started watching that one, and then
I tried to watch it with Sean.
No,
I can't. He loves it, and I'm just like, they literally never find anything. So no, thank you. And he likes ghost shows, like those Ghost Adventures and like Ghost Hunter.
Because I get too weird. I'm like, if I watch this, then ghosts are gonna think it's okay to come in my house, and we can't have that.
I think there's a show called Ghost Brothers, and it's his favorite show.
Oh wow.
It's very hilarious. They're not brothers. I'm just gonna tell you that. But it's really funny. That one actually is kind of funny, and if I hear it and I'm in another room, sometimes I'll be like, huh, because it's so wild. But they're all like that. It's just, and anytime they go, okay, we're gonna talk to the ghost and we're gonna record it with this thing and play it back, and you're gonna hear the ghost talk. And then they go, okay, hey ghost, what's up? What do you have to say? And then they record the silence, and then they play it back, and you hear like, and they're like, oh god, that was a word. They definitely just said, come into this room over here. Even though all you hear is like, bleh, or some like weird backfire noise, or like,
yeah,
it's just sound from the thing. Like, and they pick out words. And whenever they pick words out of like random noises, I can't handle it.
Yeah.
Because one of them will be like, that he said bacon. The other one will be like, yes, I heard bacon. No, you heard like feedback weirdness. Like, there was no words. I've never once heard a word. And I've asked Sean, I go, do you ever actually hear a word when they play the noise? Or do you just hear noise and they tell you what the word is? And he goes, oh, well, they tell you. It's not a word. I don't know.
Like, no.
See, I love that you're afraid of like ghosts coming to get you or whatever. And I'm like, what? Ghosts? That is not a real thing. I'm sorry, it's not.
I've always felt very connected to the spiritual realm.
Whatever. I know I'm supposed to be spiritual, but I don't think
you're not supposed to be anything. You're just you. It's fine.
I know, but there's other spiritual stuff that I do. Like, you got me into this whole, like, there's guides and people helping you out up there, and I still have a hard time with that, but I feel the plausibility of it. Mm-hmm. But ghosts, I guess because it's so fantastical and nothing like that has, oh my gosh, holy crap. The other day, this isn't ghosts, this is Siri, but the other day I had my phone in my hand and I set it down like this on the table, and I said, as I was setting it down, I said, Sean, I've had the Beverly Hillbillies or the Gilligan's Island theme song stuck in my head all day. And I walked into another room and it started playing. And I thought he was messing with me. I thought he was like playing it on the TV. And I came out and I was singing it, and I was like, cool. And I looked at him, I'm like, are you going to play the whole song? And he goes, are you going to play the whole song? Because he's sitting on the couch, like he's watching TV. And I look at the TV and there's nothing. It's like paused because he's listening to me talk. And I'm like, where is that coming from? He goes, I don't know. You tell me. You turned it on. I go, I did not. I literally said, I've had the theme stuck in my head all day, and now it is playing. And I pick up my phone, and like the music on my phone is playing Gilligan's Island. And I don't have Gilligan's Island on my phone. I think I just said it out loud. And the phone was like, here you go. And it freaked me out, man. And I know it's fucking Surrey, AI, whatever bullshit's listening to me all the time. But I've never had that happen, like where I say the name of a song and it just plays. Like, have you ever had that happen?
No.
Okay. It fucking freaked me out. I was like, but I think what I did, maybe when I put my phone down, maybe it was open to something, and maybe it heard me say, because I just said it and it just played.
Or it must have, like, something you said sounded close enough to Hey Siri.
but I didn't hear like a bebop or a like, oh yes. Oh yeah, your Siri's talking to you now, isn't it?
Yes.
Don't say Gilligan's Island. But that was weird. I don't think that was a ghost, but it was it was weird. And I thought Sean was messing with me though, because he can get a really serious face and mess with me for a long time, and I'm very gullible. I'm like, really? And so I'm like, give me your shit. Like, where are you playing this from? And he's like, no. He's like, you're doing this.
Wow.
No. So weird.
So weird.
But yeah, I mean, I guess I don't not believe in ghosts. If they're there, they're there. I just never have seen any proof beyond stupid ghost shows that are not proof.
A couple interesting experiences, and my family has some anecdotes of like my grandpa visiting, which I think is kind of cute. Like when my cousin got married, they had the reception in my grandma and grandpa's house, which they live in at the moment. But this was like 20 years ago. They got married and my grandma was still alive and she had all of her knickknacks around. Anyway, just randomly out of the blue in the middle of the reception, people are hanging out and this music box started playing. It was a music box that my grandpa had given my grandma decades before, and it's been sitting on a shelf. There's no reason for it to play. And so they really felt like that was grandpa saying hi. So I've had a couple experiences with my grandpa. Like I feel like he just loves his family, so he's been hanging out with us this whole time. And that's the main thing for me.
Yeah. I mean, there's stuff that happens or I'll see something and it will like intensely remind me of my mom in more intense ways than just like, oh, like she liked dogs or like this, like something specific. And I'm like, or like a smell or something. And I'm like, shit. But again, I don't know what that is. Do you remember that in like, I think it was in the 90s or early 2000s, they had TV shows with like got people that talked to dead people, like John Edwards. Oh my God, I loved those shows.
Yes, and there's Tyler Henry now, and it like blows my mind.
The John Edwards was bullshit though, and they have proven that was total bullshit.
He's on TikTok. I follow him.
John Edwards?
Yes.
They have like, I watched, I think there's a documentary, something that was like behind the scenes of some of these shows, and they show like these people getting interviewed and like saying these things on camera before they were ever on the show.
Like, I hope that my grandpa Lawrence...
and they name, and then he's like, oh, I'm getting Lawrence, yeah, come on down. You're the next contestant on ghost shows. Those were so crazy. I liked them, but at the same time I could feel like I felt bad for some people.
Henry is legit. Like watching him blows my mind. And I did talk to a psychic one time about something. Like as soon as we got on, it was so funny. She's like, okay, I got to tell you, as soon as I tapped in to connect to this energy, there is a woman who will not stop talking to me, and like just really just went on to describe things. And I was like, that's Grandma Glitter.
I don't know, man. I don't. If anyone said shit like that to me, I'd be like, that could be anybody. But I pull tarot cards, so
yeah. Anyway,
that's why I feel like I have like this responsibility to be at like a certain level of spirituality and be okay with all of it. But there's only certain parts of it that I don't like. And
well, okay, this makes me wonder, like if we look at this from your view and motivation versus my view and motivation, like it makes me really curious about how we're both showing up correctly for ourselves, because your view is survival, so, baseline, and then your motivation is that innocence. So it makes sense with that survival view, you'd be like, I need more information.
I need all of the information.
Yeah. And like all but one of your colors are one. And then of course I have a bunch of one lines in that for your motivation, but I have probability view. So I'm like, I mean, I don't know. Like there's probably like there's, who am I to say it's not? Like I can't look at all the probabilities. So that's really fascinating to me. And when I think about probability, it's like That's what I think of. Like, well, probably it's true. And
Thought
with the
Nimbus was going to make it, but he did not.
that's okay. I was just trying to keep talking. So
No, I know you do really. We're both really good at that. When one of us has to like, we're like,
yeah,
oh, it's my turn to talk.
yeah, it's all
But
good.
I like the view. Like I told you, view, it helps me because it feels black and white. View is
The
which
bottom
arrow?
right, bottom
Bottom
right
right.
on the personality side. So
Oh,
it
when
comes,
people talk about like manifesting.
yeah, okay. You know
Oh no, I said the M word.
no, it's just the manifesting arrow and that whole lore that came from that annoys me because that specific placement, it comes from the north and south nodes. It's the color and tone of your north and south nodes.
Uh-huh.
That's and someone
And
just
north and south nodes is like past, future, right?
it's more about like physicality, about location. But yes, the placement, it's like where you're coming from and where you're going to.
Okay. But physicality of past. Ooh, I like that thought. That helps me remember because
Yeah.
I forget what
And
all the planets and things mean.
if you think about it too, like the environment, that comes from your subconscious north and south node. And so that's where you're meant to be, where your body is meant to be, so that you can look from your correct viewpoint. So when you're in your correct environment, you can see from your correct view. Yeah.
Oh.
So when you're in your cave that smells good, then you can see what you need to survive. That's what you're doing. When I'm in my valley that looks good and talking to the people I'm meant to talk to, like then I can see the probability of what can happen.
Cool. I never even thought of it like that. Like the way, so this is what's underneath. No, this is on the right side. But when people would talk about this arrow before, it always confused me because of what we were talking about, manifesting versus
Yeah,
what is
specific.
it like? Yeah. I'm like, I don't even remember what it's called anymore because I haven't talked
Yeah.
about it like that since I very first started learning about human design. And it's not really, that's not really what it's meant to be about, right? Yeah.
No, not at all. I can kind of see how she created that because it is your viewpoint, and if it's left, it's focused. If it's right, it's peripheral. So I can kind of see like if you have a left arrow
Big
and that
picture, small picture.
focus in on a thing. If you have a right arrow, then it's like your view is going to be on the outside. So I can kind of see, but that's not what it
But the
was.
manifesting part doesn't fit.
Not to me.
No, not to a lot of us. I understand. The reason that I never really cared about it, or when people would bring it up or whatever, I would say, yeah, this is what they would say, you're a non-specific manifester. But one, I didn't want to confuse people because when you use like manifester as a type, so
Right.
when you're talking about manifesting,
Yeah.
like they're different things. And manifesting in human design is different than manifesting in a lot of other spiritual speak.
Yeah.
Manifesting in human design is more literal, more what you're putting out into the universe, not like what you're calling for. It's what you're manifesting.
That's what the throat center is doing essentially.
Yeah. And it's almost like opposite dynamics. Like in
Yeah.
other spiritual speak, manifesting is calling things in. And in human design, it's what are you putting out? They're different things. Yeah. So I always thought it was confusing. I didn't want to confuse other people. So that's why I automatically was like, well, I'm never referring to this as this because I don't want to confuse people, manifester, not. But then the more that I would hear it, I was like, ugh, like I know that's not what it's about, but it's not particularly negative. So like if I heard I was non-specific versus specific manifester, none of those to me feel bad. So I just let people have their thoughts about it. Like if you want to try to manifest stuff by thinking about a red car and you get a red car, cool. Or if you just want to have the thought of energy, feeling of going fast, and that's how you manifest, great. None of those things are incorrect or wrong. You're putting stuff out into the universe that you want. Who cares how you do it?
Yeah. And that's my viewpoint on it too. Like if that resonates with you and you like doing it, then I'm not going to stop you.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes no sense and it's not actually part of human design. Just
no. And when it comes to the woo-woo manifesting thing, I do feel more comfortable with like general ideas and feelings and energy, like wanting that than specific stuff. But that's just a personal, it just feels easier to do that. And so if I'm going to do like positive spiritual woo woo shit and I'm going to think about stuff that I want, it's easier for me to think about it in a, what's the feeling I would have if I had this stuff. But like you said, that's not human design. It's just other tools that we use.
Yeah. So it's a interesting. And then I've noticed for myself, like if I'll try all the different manifesting things, of course, because I'm like, yeah, I want to manifest a good life.
Can't hurt.
Yeah. But the times that when I look back on it, the times I've been most successful and when things actually manifest, it's when I completely forgot that I asked for that thing. Mm-hmm. And that really annoys me.
You're like, now I gotta forget that
yeah, it's like, but how do I forget that that's what I want? And
still, yeah.
It's so
I agree with you. I'm the same way. Sometimes something will come around. Usually it's almost all the time, anytime I'm trying to manifest something, it's money. It's like financial money situations. And usually, like you said, it'll come around when I haven't asked for it for a while. I haven't really been thinking about it. I'm like, oh. And then it's always an amount that is nice, but not like
what you asked for, like the $100
life changing.
Yeah.
And I feel like such a greedy jerk to be like, hey, I asked for money. Can you just give me $1 million? Like, come on. Like, and then I get a check for like $45 for my for my taxes. And I was like, oh, this is great. And then the little voice in my head is like, this is fucking bullshit. And so I wanting to admit that that's still like, you can be grateful. I am endlessly grateful for my life, for every little tiny thing that happens. On my way home from the farmer's market today, I was just looking at the trees and I started crying because I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. Everything's so beautiful. I have a cloud covered while I walk home. I'm so grateful. Like I'm grateful for every fucking thing there is. I know how to do gratitude and I really feel it. I think that's why I cry a lot too.
Oh yeah.
But you can still feel like you want way more and like that you should have it now, and you can still feel impatient and you can still have this thing that's like, no, give me more now. Like that doesn't make you a bad person. You're not doing the inner work incorrectly. There's always going to be a part of you that is like, fuck this, or like, I want more, or this isn't what I asked for. It's always going to be a little voice. And I think people try to like make those go away. All like they're never going to happen. And that's just so much energy wasted.
Well, and I hate when people say that, like, I just want that to go away, or I'll just shut it down or whatever. I'm like, no, this is an important thing that's talking to you. Like, this is just part of you. And then the way that you're just describing this and the words that you're saying, it really reminds me of my latest book I've been reading, my Raw lecture, whatever it is. Because he talks about each of the lines and their personality placement. And with the third line personality, it's really about sustainability. And he says one of the most important themes you're going to deal with is the theme of material and money. The third line is
I've read that a lot.
The material way and the financial and money way. And it was so interesting. And just talking about the martyrdom, this is what hit me when I told you the other day. There's a phrase in here and I was like, oh, I've been totally in my martyrdom with money. Like, woe is me. Why am I not making as much? Why is nobody hiring me for my business? But the flip of that is the mastery. Like the third line is really here to be the mastery of the material plane and the mastery of money. And it just like blew my mind. I've been really sitting with it for the past couple of days.
Yeah, I've read that. I remember reading that a lot when I first learned about design, and it pissed me off because I was like, well, then I should have money. Like, it's like third lines are so good with money. Like you're going to get it from so many different places and just, you're going to be rained on with money. And that really irritated me because no. And I understand what they mean when they say that, but I don't know. I feel like sometimes when things in human design are talked about as like the money channel, or you should get money, or when it's sex, or when people use the words that or the parts of you that you're gonna be like, whoa, I want to listen to this. This is about money. This is about relationships. This is Like, these are the parts that pull at me. And sometimes I think it's a little misrepresented in design because, yeah, it's money, but I think a lot of times it's also like resources and wealth, how you see wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And I do feel like I'm good at managing that kind of stuff, but I would like to practice managing money more if I could. Thank you. But I totally get the third line thing with a lot of it is centered around like material stuff. And you don't want it to be like, a lot of me fights it. It's like, I don't want to care about this stuff. We've talked about this before. I want to live in the forest and not have to care about money or jobs or any of that stuff. But
insurance.
But I also don't want to go through what it would take to actually do something like that. Like, that's the other thing is like, what would it take to actually do that and be able to live? Well, you'd have to change your life completely and learn a bunch of new skills.
Grow your own food.
Figure out where you're going to live. And like, is that scary? Are you scared? Is it safe? Like that. And that's where my survival view is like, oh, hey, now your couch is really comfortable. What are you talking about over here? You love air conditioning. Right? Like, you barely can camp for one night. What is happening? But in my head, I see like this person floating around in a forest, like gathering her own food and like having all the time of the day because I don't have to have this stupid job. So I think a lot of the times our, like I said, our like thoughts and our desires and our dreams, all this daydreamy fun stuff, imagination takes us really sometimes up in the sky, but what you really want is much more achievable than you think. Like the other day I was walking my dogs going, if I had $1 million, where would I be right at this moment? It'd be walking the dogs because it was the time of day that the dogs go for a walk and I would still have dogs. Maybe we'd be in our backyard and I wouldn't have to walk them, but I would be outside with these dogs.
Yeah.
And lately I've been stopping myself at different points of times of my day and going, if you had $1 million, where would you be right now? And it's usually very similar to where I am at that moment and what I'm doing at that moment. It would just be in like a bigger house.
Yeah.
And and I'm sure I would have a different energy and feeling because I wouldn't be worrying about money, but it would be the same stuff.
Yeah, that's the other thing, talking about that energy and feeling when people are like, show up as your higher self, as your next level self, and like feel what you would feel. I'm like, I don't know what I would feel.
I want that feeling. I know what I would be doing. Like, you're right. I can like put together, show up as your, like you said, who you want to be. Already be that person. Just be them. You're already them. If you're wanting to be that, you're them.
Yeah.
Boom. Boom. Boom.
And
you are them.
Just be that person.
It is a very prominent like energy, or I don't know what to call that, but like almost any self-helpy thing you look at or hear about, one of the pieces is whatever you want to be, just act like that person all the time. Be that person. You're that. Cool.
Well, on one hand, I kind of get it. Like, where it's like, okay, like I've been acting this way, so that's what's been creating my reality. But that's because I have these specific stories that I've been holding on to. Mm-hmm. So, you know, like I can kind of see that. So if I switch that, if I acknowledge these stories and then they don't have as much a hold on me, I can show up in this way and start making different decisions. But then it still feels kind of abstract. Like, who do I want to be? I want to be someone like traveling the world and meeting with clients and having fun. Well, I'm a single mom living in Houston, Texas. So
I think what it helps me with is realizing that, and I think this really helps with my Undefined G Center too, is that just like you said, who do I want to be? What do I want to be? That's a really, for Undefined G people, that's a real weird, we're trying to put our square peg in a round hole. And it doesn't work. So a lot of times I'll go, who do I want to be right now? And that's why I do it in specific times of the day. I'm like, okay, right now, what's happening? Because I know I'm not the same. I'm not going to be the same. And I have a hard time, like you said, going, well, who would I like to be? So that's why it's easier for me to go, well, I would like to not have to worry about money. That energy and that feeling, I don't know what that is. I don't even know close to what that is. I would like to explore that energy and that feeling.
Yes.
But the only way to do that is to get more money. There's like one way.
There's the chicken and egg thing, because then there's people saying like the way to get more money is to move into that energy, right? And to say things like whenever you spend money, and I started doing this, and honestly it really did help. Like I'd get groceries at the grocery store, and whenever I would feel nervous about spending that money, I would think, look, I'm getting this, like, thank you to the money for providing food for my family, and this money goes to this dude who's checking out my groceries, right? And like he gets to have this life because I'm helping support with this money. And I just try to think of all the good that the money can go to. And that honestly did change a lot of my perspective on things.
Mm-hmm.
And even lately, I've been doing similar things to you where I would get stressed about money. But like the past couple months, like I would hate paying my rent. It would always stress me out. But the past couple months, I would actively move into, how cool is it that I get to pay this rent and I have this place for my kids that's safe, and just go to all of that. And then I would also visualize, like, okay, all this money is about to leave my bank account, but that's only creating space for way more money to come in. Like, how fun is that? And it's helped to change a lot.
Yeah.
And it sees different things happening with my money. But you're right, like it's this weird thing. It's like, well, I have to have more money to feel this security, but I have to feel secure to get the more money.
Yeah. I have to not care about money to get it. I have to not want it or care about it or think about it. And that's when it happens.
Yes. And then that annoys me because I feel like if I care about something, I want to pay attention to it.
You know what's cool is there's this meditation I do a lot that is Yoga with Adrienne. She does this meditation. And
I love her.
I love her too. And she said something about don't think about your breath or let your breath just be what it is. And then she goes, I find this is a catch-22, because if we tell you not to think about your breath, you're automatically going to think about your breath. So instead, I invite you to simultaneously not think about it, but also give it attention when you need to. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I like this. Because when people tell you not to think about something, that's what you're thinking about. Like
the pink
when
elephant.
people tell you not to worry about it, you're worrying about it. And when it's something as pervasive as money, I don't know how you don't have it, even if it's just a little tiny inkling in the back of your mind, if you don't have it. I don't know how you don't have this crazy gnawing if you don't have the money, like physically in your possession. I don't know. So I'm similar to you. I'm experimenting with different things and mindsets whenever. It does make me feel better. It does make me feel less worried. It does make me feel less stressed. It does give me more confidence. But at the same time, I'm still where I'm at. I feel like you and I do a really good job at like putting ourselves in the lives that we want, thinking about it, experimenting with different ways to get clarity on it, all these things. But there's a real life of that doesn't mean you get what you want. It doesn't mean if you're calling in money or doing all this stuff, doesn't mean you just get it. If you're calling in a relationship, it doesn't mean it's just going to happen. If you're calling in, I don't know, happiness or anything. Happiness for me is an easier one because I can relatively make myself happy very quickly. But like tangible stuff, like calling in stuff like that and not getting it is what usually happens.
Yeah.
For most people.
And
it's not like that somebody has a secret where they know what words to use or how to call something in. Oh, I manifested money and oh my God, I got millions of dollars. Like, cool. Yeah. But that's not real.
Or like the people who are like quantum jump, like do this quantum jump meditation. And or
I started looking into that stuff ever since the last time we talked about it.
Yeah.
I haven't done anything with it, but I've read it. And it like makes my brain kind of go, whoa.
I mean, I've done a couple of those meditations because obviously curiosity and fear motivation. I'm like,
and 3-line, you have to try it.
Like, I want to know what this is about.
Yeah.
And I fully was like hoping for some kind of miracle, like the next day something magical would happen. Um,
The wording of it does lead you to believe that that is what would be the case.
yeah.
I will say that.
Yeah. But then, and I think we talked about this before, like my friend said, well, if you don't have any of the mystical circuitry, then it's going to be too rough on your system. And so that's what it's so fascinating to me. All this stuff is so fascinating. And the people who,
Well, I never thought about that, like rough on your system. Like maybe this isn't good for you to attempt. Like I never even thought of it in that regard.
because if we think about the nervous system and how much is connected to money and sustainability and security, and especially with you, like you have all the three lines and then you have all the one colors, and your nervous system is in this one place. And if we just switched your nervous system,
Okay, cool.
right?
Let's just do it. Let's turn that switch. I'm ready. I know.
It
But
would
I
be
think this is a good
big.
message for people because it's like you can do all these things and yes, they can help you, but that just because the things aren't actually happening, like you're not getting tangible things, you're still doing okay. There's probably a million other reasons why you're not getting those things, right? Because life. So there's things that you can. It's really hard because like, and I'll use Travis as an example. I'll see like his story and I'm like, oh, this would be really cool to be like, oh, I don't like to live here anymore. I'm just going to go to this conference and then this conference and then I'm going to shoot off to Norway. And I know that that's complicated for him and maybe financially it was hard for him or scary or whatever it was to do all these things. But in my head, I'm like, I have a husband and 2 dogs. Like I literally couldn't do this. Like I probably could, but again, what it would take to get me there is more than I would like to do. And once I'm there, I might be like, oh shit, like this was a bad idea. So, because I thought about them the whole time. I'm like, what if Sean and I just pack up the car and move to a different state and start new lives and la la la. And it sounds really romantic and fun, but the process, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I look at all you people, you too, because your kids are getting older now. So you're like this close to being able to just gallivant.
That's interesting too, because I talk about that a lot and I'll tell my kids, like, I really want to go travel for a year after Oliver graduates. But the mom part of me is like, can I really be halfway across the world from my kids and be
I mean,
okay with it?
you can experiment with closer travel if you would like. Maybe because he's older now, you can go do like closer things that are in the United States, but still like out of state or like go to the coast or like there's so many places you can go.
So weird to be that far. And so that's an interesting thing. Like that's what I'm saying is like
they would be so excited for you. They would be so excited for you.
And but that's the thing. My kids are like, cool. I think you should, especially my manifestor kid. He's like, look, I'm gonna spend a year traveling the world at some point, and you don't get to come with me.
I'm informing you now that at some point I'm leaving you.
Yeah.
And I will be back. And that feels very good because he's a manifest. That does feel good, but I think for you too, it would be really good. And your 1-3 is going to keep you like safe and resourceful and knowledgeable about your surroundings. Your fear motivation is going to be like, oh, we're not going to stay there. That place is hinky. Like you are like built for this. You're like built for it.
I'm so curious. But yeah, like there's some things I get so frustrated about being in this place where it's so hot and it's miserable and I'm surrounded by all these conservatives and like I just want to go figure out, I want to do astrocartography and like go travel and visit my Venus line and just see how that feels. And
how jealous are you watching Jess Fields' stories of moving? I love her. She's my favorite. And I love that she has afforded herself the luxury to be like, I don't like it here. And I know they had like mold problems, and I think that's mainly the reason that they're leaving. She hasn't shared that much, but she basically said it was too much stimulus for her and she needed to be in a smaller town. And I was like, oh.
I know, right? And she's talking about, I need my feet in the grass. And like, that's something I've realized, like, I am not in the correct environment here. I'm a Valley's environment on a second
Mhm.
story apartment.
I
I
know.
don't have grass. I mean, there's grass outside, but there's also like 50 dogs in the complex. So I don't know how much they've peed in that
Oh my
grass.
God. The
I
little
just,
kids that play in the grass in front of my place. I'm like, do
yeah,
you know how many times my dog has shit right there?
yeah.
Like
And like,
laying in it.
wanna, I want to put my bare feet in the grass. And sometimes I just want to lay down in the grass. I'm not going to do that here.
Yeah, it's too hot too.
Yeah. It, I
Well, I
would,
think that this is exciting because I do think that even though there's certain things that are keeping you in certain parameters, finances, kids, otherwise, they're keeping you in a place. One of those is like one of the big ones is loosening, you know? And now
mhm.
you kind of can like, oh, maybe I can afford this little day trip, or maybe I can afford this thing. I feel like for you, it's gonna once you start it, I think you'll probably be like, ooh, this is fun. And I'm gonna go do this. And you have like places that you can stay if you go places too, you know. I have to get you a
Yes.
bed, but it'll we have a room. I'm in it.
That would be
But
so amazing.
yeah, you
I know.
probably have a ton of places you could stay too. Like
Yeah.
like people that you would like to stay with, not just like, oh,
I
I
mean,
might as
that
well
would
stay with
be
you.
so fun. Just go travel around and visit people and
Mhm.
say hi to my internet friends in real life. That'd
I
be so
think
cool.
it's very close for you.
I think so too. Like I'm feeling
That's probably
the
why you're like,
feeling of
come
it. Yeah.
on.
I mean, well, and when I think about there's only 2 more years. Oliver's a junior, and junior and senior year go by so fast because there's so many changes. And Matthew is just thriving so much in college. And so just knowing how good he's doing
And you're
really
gonna have
helps me,
adults. You're gonna have
you know?
adult children.
Yeah. And they're both like, go travel, like we'll be fine. And I'm very open with them. So I'm like, are you sure you won't feel deserted by your
Oh
mother?
my God, they will be
Absolutely
so
not.
happy. They'll be happy for you. They'll be
Yeah,
excited for you.
they'll be
You're
fine.
gonna bring them pictures and stuff and like knickknacks and shirts and
Yeah,
magnets.
and we have
And
Snapchat, like,
they're gonna see how happy you are. Your kids are so sweet. They're gonna be like,
yes.
go mom. They are gonna miss you because you're their mom, but you have set them up so well that they're fine. And they have their dad there too, and they have their friends, and they
Well,
have the
that's
rest of
the
your
thing.
family.
Like, I don't know where Oliver's gonna end up in college. He might be at the same place as Matthew, but their dad is married to someone who lives 4.5 hours away. And so he keeps saying that once they're graduated, he's gonna move over there to be with her.
Oh.
So he won't be right here. And
Mm.
yeah, there's so but I don't, so that's the other thing that I get in my head, right? And like, well, if their dad's leaving, then I need to stay around. Like
You're still around.
it'll
You're
be okay.
just doing stuff.
Well, and Oliver and I talk because Oliver's going to be a dad at some point. I'm pretty sure. Like he's already like, I want to be a stay-at-home dad and
Oh,
like have
cute.
my own business and take care of the kids. I'm like, that's amazing. It's like I'm already excited about my grandkids. I'm like, I want to live close enough that I can help if you need it.
Mhm.
And I want to go to the basketball games because probably your kid will play basketball. And like I want to be an involved grandma and actually have a relationship with my
You
grandkids,
will.
you know? So I feel like I have this little time.
Window.
Yeah, because I didn't get to do it in my 20s. I was a mom.
Mhm.
And so I'd like go play and have some fun and
Mhm.
then come back
Mhm.
and settle in when
Mhm.
it's time to settle in. So
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. And how cool would it be if you're in like a different state, like having a great time, and one of your kids comes and like meets up with you, drives to see you, and then you guys have like a little adventure, and then you go your separate ways. I don't know
yeah.
why, but I love that shit. This is probably why another bajillion reason why I didn't have kids is because I don't want. I'm constantly amazed at how much I enjoy Sean to the
Mhm.
point of I will like feel like I'm stalking him when he's not here sometimes.
And I feel like that's so
It
good
feels
for
so
being with him for 10 years, you know?
it I recently, like over the last year, was when I really it clicked in my mind that we are actually going to be together forever, and like I'm going to grow old and die and be with this person.
Oh,
Before that didn't really I didn't care about that because I think to me personally that's too far, like that's too much pressure you're putting on yourself. Like when you get married and people are like, well, how can you marry someone you can't see yourself with forever and ever? It's like, well, I just don't see that far ahead in general. But as far ahead as I do see, he's there. So yes. And now, like we've seen, we'll see old couples, and I do that thing where I'm like, oh, that's totally gonna be like us. And I asked him the other day, I'm like, Sean, like I'm probably gonna get, like, one of us is gonna get cancer. One of us is gonna lose our hair. Like we're gonna get like legit old and saggy and wrinkly. My hip doesn't work. Like it's already happening. And he was like, I don't care about that. And I was like, I don't care about that either. Oh my God. Like I was like, oh shit. So like we're gonna be fucking old, decrepit people with each other. And he was like, yeah. He's like, that's what we signed up for. And I was like, and because we don't want kids, it feels very like you're the only one I have. It's very like, it's very scary. But I don't know. This last year I've gotten like totally and like way more in love with him. It's wild. Like I don't know where it came from, but I'm just like, I actually really fucking love you. It's weird.
That's really beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, it's just because I never wanted kids, so I always like this whole idea of like marrying someone. I told you when he first was like asked me to marry him, I'm like, but we're not having kids. He was like, yeah, those are two separate things. And I'm like, no, you get married so that you can have kids. Like, you don't have to get married. You just stay together for a really long time if you don't have. And he was like, well, I want to marry you. And I was like, shit. And you don't want kids and you want to marry me? Why? But I mean, I want the same shit. So
you're giving me hope for.
I know. And I feel sometimes I talk too much about him, but it's hard because
he's your
like,
person.
Yeah. And he's really.
I like when you talk about him because it like moves me out of my insecurities about it. Like it's like giving me proof that
and there's shit about them that you're really not going to like, that you're almost going to question. Like there's certain political and like views on the world and the people in it that we do not share. We're close, but we're not on the same page.
Yeah.
And that freaked me out. I was like, we can't be together if he leans more right in these places where I lean left. But you can. It's just, you have to respect each other's. We got into a talk about transgender stuff in the car the other day, and I like immediately shut it down. I'm like, we don't agree on this, so I don't want to talk about it because we don't agree. And he was like, well, I want to talk about it. And we actually, because of him, had a normal conversation. Neither of us got upset or mad or tried to defend the other or what we were saying. We just kind of presented what we thought. This is where I say sometimes he has extreme views of like looking at the one person when I'm looking at like all of the people. But we had a respectful conversation. It was real weird because I did not think this was possible because I know we didn't agree on certain parts of this. And in my head, I'm like, am I able to be with someone who doesn't see it exactly the way that I see it? And once we talked about it for a while, he was like, oh, I can see where you're coming from. And I told him, I'm like, well, there's these certain places I don't see where you're coming from. And he's like, that's fine. That's okay. Like, we're okay. And we just kept talking, and then we changed the subject and talked about something else. And I was like, we just talked about something we do not agree on at all, really, in certain places. And we didn't fight about it. And I don't feel like you're a terrible person or I'm a terrible person. It's just, we don't agree on this thing. His dad and his dad's girlfriend of like 15 years his dad's very right. And this woman is very left, very like extreme sides. They don't agree on anything. And they've been together for like 15 years. They don't live together. They're just together. That's what I know. When I met her, I was like,
yeah. Like, I feel like, I think the reason I like hearing about you and Sean is because that's kind of what I want. Like, I want to get kind of clingy, like fairly codependent with my person.
But there's going to be stuff that you don't like. And you're just, it's just going to be what it is.
Yeah.
There's going to be things that you accept that you didn't think you would accept. And I'm not talking about like bad shit. I'm talking about socks on the floor or like little things that you're like, I will never take this. This means they don't respect me. That's not what it means.
I just want to be able to have conversations. Like, I feel like
you will.
both of my husbands, like, but my lived experience is that when I bring up what's important to me, that's annoying and stupid, and um we
Like
just
we're
need
the
to get
opposite. Me and Sean
this.
are the opposite. He brings stuff up. I'm like, I don't want to talk about this shit. And he's like, no, we're talking about it. Like, oh, away from me. It's very funny that
But the way that y'all continue to talk about it, where I feel like in my pat, like, part of me, I wondered every single day for the past 10 years, like, if my kid's dad would have just had an open and honest conversation with me about a couple things, would we still be married to this day? Because I feel like he just didn't want to listen to me, and he didn't want to have a conversation that might have been difficult, and so we just got divorced. That's
or do
what
you
it's.
think if you would have had those conversations sooner, you would have broken up sooner?
I mean, maybe it's that too. Um,
It's
I don't know.
either, yeah, it's like,
I know for me, like you're talking about growing old, like even from the beginning, like when we were high schoolers, I had this vision of us being married and having two boys. And then that ended up happening. And I'd also have visions of him like as an old dude with like big bushy eyebrows and big
you're
ears,
still
like
gonna get it.
very specific imagery of
You're
him.
still gonna get it because
Well,
you
but
have
he would also
kids with
tell
him.
me, he's like, I'm gonna be one of those old guys, because he's a pilot, or he doesn't fly anymore. But anyway, he's like, I'm just gonna be one of those old guys that wears flight suits, and I'm gonna have, like, if you die before me, I'm just gonna put your ashes in a bag and I'm gonna keep it in one of my pockets so that I can have you with me all the time. And he would tell
That's
me that.
cute.
And I'm like, that's no longer true. So
But it is a little true because if you'll still see him when he's old because you have your kids. You
yeah,
still, it's funny because the visions and the things that you saw are true. It's just not at all the way that this is what I think a lot of times when people have, because I do believe that people see things that end up happening,
mhm.
but I think you just get like the little piece, like the, oh, we had the two kids, or, oh, I'm going to see him old. You don't get all the other stuff. Oh, I'm going to see him as he's older, but we might not be together. Or the
Yeah.
reason I see him is because we have the kids. And so that's why we're a family still.
You're
Like
so
that's how that
right.
works. But
Okay. That's like giving me chills. That's interesting.
well, yeah, like, because a lot of times, like I said, something will happen that I think is fortuitous or like magical or universe talking to me bullshit, but it doesn't come the way that I wanted it. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, this isn't what I wanted. And they're like, well, this is what you're getting.
And sometimes I feel like
So
the
be
only
happy.
reason that he and I were together is to bring these two humans into the world. And it was almost like as soon as that happened, it's like, okay, you're done. Like
I
that.
think you probably got some lessons with it too, but also, I mean, you're probably not wrong.
I mean, that just seems like a big part of it. It's so weird. And then I remember the moment I was like looking down on the couch at the boys like playing, and it flashed me back to the moment like 10 years before that I had had that vision. It was like, oh crap, this is what I saw that one day. And when you were saying that just now, I'm like, oh, now I'm curious, like that moment that I see in the future of him like staring at him as this old man, like I wonder what is happening on that day. I'm kind of excited to
Yeah,
know
you're still going to
now.
get that. You're still going to get
Yeah,
the picture.
yeah.
You just don't know.
It's like who knows what's going on.
You're gonna be looking at what, are you turning gray? Look at let me see. How old are you looking? Are you looking like my thought? Not yet. We
Well,
still
and the
have some
imagery
time.
I have, this is like 30 years in the future. So like the way he looks.
Okay. That's cool.
It's very, so now I'm curious. Well, and I'm figuring out that like there's other thing where I'm like, we probably wouldn't have been together long term. I don't know.
I
The person I see myself with long term now is not traditionally male. We'll just say that.
mhm.
So
And that's great. And that gives you so many more options. Like you've
yeah,
opened yourself up to so many more options. It almost to me feels like even though this is a thing that you haven't talked about a lot and you're not sure about where it's going yet, to me it's like your possibilities, right?
I'm probability.
Probability. Well, the probability that the love of your life is in this huge pool of people now that's
Yeah.
larger
Yeah.
is so that's good. But I also feel like relationships are there's parts of them that are, you can't explain it. It's magical almost because it doesn't make sense. I'm not a relationship person,
Yeah.
but with him, I am the
Very
relationship
much.
person, but really not, I don't have I have friends, I have you. It's easier, I think, because we're farther apart, and I would love to see you in real life and I would hug you to death. You know that. But I think it's easier for us to maintain because we don't feel like, oh, I haven't seen that person in 2 weeks. Let's plan like a together, or they're throwing this party and do I want to go, or like we can't go to that stuff. We can go to this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that helps for me to maintain relationships when I don't feel like I have a responsibility to the person to like keep up a relationship, because that feels exhausting to me. And this defies all. I just stopped trying to make sense of it, to be quite honest, because I've over the years I've had so many different thoughts of like, how are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Like, what would your life be like if you were single? Like all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And then it feels like this fire hose just comes and goes. And then it's just like, but then you wouldn't have this person. And that's just like, well, I can't do that. So it's weird. I've never.
That's beautiful.
I guess it's beautiful, but I also find it's very frustrating because I want to like tell people what to do. This is what you should do, and these are the
Like,
list you should follow. Yeah, and I got nothing. I got nothing.
It just happened. It was very innocent.
And it doesn't feel good to me to not have anything. I feel selfish. I feel like I did something that got me something really good, and I wish I could do it for other people, and I can't. And I'm like, oh, I want to. But you're doing the stuff that needs to be done anyway for you to be available for this person anyway. So it's not like you're already,
I feel like it's coming
so
through.
far ahead.
And I've realized too that a lot of why I haven't been able to let go of him or to move past him is because we never had that closure conversation. We never had this like, why did you do this? Or like, let's figure this out. And a lot of the stuff that he did do, when I would ask him about it, he would just flat out gaslight me. Like that never happened. So I didn't get that. And when we go back to my one lines and that fear motivation, I'm like, I needed that foundation. I needed that understanding so that I can have that foundation of moving forward.
Have you
And
said that to him?
never got that.
You've never done that?
No, because when I asked him, he flat out, there's been multiple times, like, you said this, and this is why I don't trust you. And he's like, I would never say that. You know that. But you did.
Okay. I think you need to say all the pieces you need to say. Even I think you need to soundboard everything on him, and he can't talk to you because you know it's true.
There was, when we were having this so right before I moved to Houston, I had to sue him because he decided he just didn't need to pay child support anymore. So I said, no, thank you, please. And I hired a lawyer. Yeah. And then it was at that point where I realized I'd held back a lot because I was afraid of losing that security of him. But since he was threatening to take it away anyway, I just unleashed. I was like, and we had this big argument at a park. Well, the boys like sat at the playground staring at us, and then a kid's birthday party started coming in.
This is like very relatable growing up because my parents divorced at the same time. Yeah.
I'm like, we are having this conversation because and just all this stuff. I'm like, this is what happened, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, that never happened. I was like, yes, it did. And then he walks away crushed. He's like, I am so upset. He was like crying, and I could see in his body language. I'm like, what's happened? Like, did I go into a different reality? Is he genuinely serious that he thinks this happened? And the interesting thing is, his dad did the same thing to his mom. When they divorced, he actually did really terrible things and ended up in prison. And sometimes I wish that would have happened to me because anyway. And he would write her letters. She told me this one time. She's like, he would write letters and talk about these things that never happened. And then he never acknowledged what did happen. And so that's why I've done everything I've done as a mom, because I'm like, I see a pattern here. My kids are not doing this to their spouse at all. So I'm going to do what I need to do to show up in the best way to help them be healthy so they don't pull this bullshit. And I guarantee you that whoever my kid marries, I'm going to be like, look, I'm not abandoning you. And then My mother-in-law introduces him to his now wife less than a year after our divorce.
Mm.
So I
I'm
feel like,
sorry. That's hard to deal with when, because you do feel like you're going crazy when people
yes,
say, especially something like, that that's manipulation, right? When he says, yeah,
I do
I would
now.
never say something like that.
Like it took me a while.
That's like straight up manipulation. My mom
Absolutely.
would say shit like that to me when I was a kid, when I would try to point out shit she did when she was drunk. Oh, I would never do that. I would never do that. Makes you feel like the asshole for thinking, having
Exactly.
the audacity to think that they would ever say that. When in reality, they
And
know they said it.
he did. And he presents like a very nice guy. Like if you were to just meet him and be like, oh yeah, he's a nice guy.
Most people
And so
do.
that makes it even worse where I'm like, I look like the asshole idiot, like yelling at this nice guy. Like I'm the crazy woman.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a lot
Well,
to
it's
heal.
good that you see this. This awareness that you have is really good, because a lot of people stop before they get to there, I feel. And yeah, I almost feel like you can't really have a conversation with somebody like that. So I think you just working on doing what you're doing to let it go, that you're already doing without him being involved, is going to be the best thing that you're going to get. Because if he's not going to admit to reality, then
What can I say?
it's
Yeah.
so hard when you're dealing with people. My Sean's best friend's wife was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and she would refuse to take medication. And this had been going for like a year. They're going through divorce now, because she got super paranoid and like made up this trip he went on with another girl, like that literally never happened. And he has proof of like where he was during this time, like with his kids. Like he was there, she was at her parents, like they just weren't together. And in her mind, he left the state and went to like Hawaii or something and had like this relationship and came back. And he can't convince her that that never happened. And there's multiple times where she's been like, you're cheating on me, this, and made up. And I feel so bad for him, because like you can't and she got physically abusive with him. He's afraid to have her around their children, this whole ordeal. And he's the father, so he's having a harder time
Yeah.
because she's the mother. So, and they're in California, so a lot of times they will get partial custody, even if it's probably not the best choice, because she's not. And I feel so bad for him, because like he was telling Sean on the phone, like, and he knew I was there and I was listening, and he sounded very upset. He's like, I just don't know how to reason with somebody who is making up things that didn't happen. It's like, sweetie, you can't, this is the part where you can't do that. Now you can't do anything like that. Now you need help, you need support, and you need to get out. And he's got 2 girls, 11 and 9. I know. I was like, oh God, to see your mom like this and to not really have like context.
Right.
And to have what I guess her family is saying a bunch of shit to, because they don't want to. I think the main thing is they don't want to admit that there's something wrong with her, like mentally, chemically, on instabilities like that. They don't want that. So they're just pretending like it's not her whole family. So she has the support of her whole family in this like delusion.
Wow.
So he's in the process now of divorcing her and trying to get full custody of his 2 daughters. And this all happened in like the last less than a year. Like before that, when he talked about this, his friend, I hope I didn't say his name. Maybe I did. No, they don't listen. But when he talked about his friend and his wife, it was always like, oh yeah, the family, they did this, like they were going to do this, him and his wife. And then one day Sean was just like, this is what happened. Like the cops came and also I'm like, so she just like
something
I don't know. Cause she's like our age. I don't know when that stuff happens to you, or if there's a time, or maybe it can just happen, or maybe she's been this like lesser version of this for a while, and now, because like straight delusional, like I don't know how you don't take something to help you with that. Like I don't like medicine. I don't like medications. I avoid it as much as possible. If I don't have to take antibiotics, I won't take, like all that stuff is not I don't really care for it. But if I was having something to the point where I was making up fiction, like things in life that are not real, I would want help to balance that out if I could.
Yeah.
But also it's got to be scary as shit. Oh,
It's gotta be.
yeah. When he was telling me this stuff, I'm like, dang, Sean. He's like, yeah, he's going through some really heavy stuff right now. I was like, damn, where did that come from? He's like, I don't know. And Sean was like, when he first heard about it, was like visibly upset about it. And I felt bad for him because, you know, that's just a weird situation to be in. And it reminds me of like when my parents, like growing up with parents who are alcoholics, there's only a certain amount of things you can do to where you shouldn't do anything. You actually should stop doing things for them because you're enabling and all those words and blah, blah, blah. But that's what I thought with him is like, wow, he's going to have to like drop her, like let her go to save himself and these kids. Like he has to do that. That's gotta feel shitty. Even though his family is very supportive of him and like being like, you're doing the right thing, like keep moving forward with this. Cause he was back and forth about divorcing her. He wasn't sure. He was like, I don't know. And then she got a restraining order on him that was not like real, like a bunch of weird stuff. She tried to take the kids and like leave, like run away, not tell anybody where they're going.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I was like, fuck, this is some heavy shit. And Sean was like, babe, I'm so happy that we don't have to deal with this stuff. I'm like, you don't know. One of us can go insane one of these days. You don't know. But I said, but babe, if I'm acting like this and I won't take my medication and I won't get better, I understand if you have to get away, like if you have to leave, like I would understand. And he was like, I'm like, I probably wouldn't understand because I'm mentally insane, but it's okay, still do it.
You're like, I understand.
Like you can only and help people to as much as they want to be helped. And then there's things that people have to do for themselves that I've realized I had to figure that out real early on as a child. Like, oh, they're supposed to take care of themselves. Well, that's weird. They don't know how to do that. I have to do that.
I had a similar thing. Like when I was young, I remember like I got an alarm clock when I was in first grade and I got myself up, I did everything. And I was like really anxious about getting to school on time. And it wasn't until I was the mom of a preschooler when we had this like parent meeting and the head lady is like, okay, y'all got to make sure you get up on time. Like it's up to you to get your kid to school on time. And I had this moment of like, no, he's got to get himself ready. And I was like, whoa, he's 5. Like, why am I expecting that of him?
Because you expected it of you.
Yes. And why did I expect that of me? Like, really? Because that was my first reaction. I'm like, he's got to do this for himself.
He's got it. He'll learn.
Wow.
Did you see, this is actually kind of shocking and not great, but this Mormon YouTuber lady, she had like a YouTube channel with this other lady about raising kids. She has 8 kids or something like that. She got arrested for child abuse because like they found the kids in her home that they are not even sure are her kids, that had like markings from like being tied up. They hadn't had food. She had been under fire a few years before for making this comment of her kids, her 6-year-old kids. School called her and said, you didn't send your kid with a lunch. She has no money. Like she doesn't have food to eat. And the mom's response was, she didn't make her own lunch this morning, so I'm teaching her a lesson. At 6 years old, this child was required to make their own lunch. And if they did not, they didn't get lunch because that was the lesson. You prepare yourself, you take care of yourself, or else you don't eat. And you are 6 years old.
Wow.
And she defended, like, there's this big video of her defending like why she didn't. And she's like, she got food when she got home, like she had dinner, she just missed one meal, so she's not going to die and all this other stuff. And I was like, do you realize how much you're fucking up your kid in here when you do that? Like you're telling them they're not safe unless they provide for their own safety. That parents are just there. Why? Why do you have parents?
Yeah.
Why are you there if they're supposed to do everything for themselves? Man, I thought that was rough. But yeah, she's in jail now and apparently one of the kids one of the boys slept on a beanbag chair for 7 months. Like he didn't have a bed. He just slept in a beanbag chair. Like a little kid. I was like, and it's not like she couldn't provide. She was teaching lessons. These were lessons she was teaching them. I don't know what the bed one was about, but these were lessons that they had to learn. Oh my God. That's insane to me. I get you want your kids to be independent, but
yeah,
your kids should also get to be children.
Yeah. My kids made their own lunch and did their own laundry starting in like kindergarten, second, because that's when I became a full-time single mom. And honestly,
yeah, but if they forgot their lunch, you wouldn't be like, oh, well, you starved to death.
I like made sure like there were parts in the fridge where I'm like, this is your food stuff. So it was literally like they just take stuff out of the fridge
and this here, yeah. But if your school called and was like, hey, your kid doesn't have lunch because he forgot your lunch, you wouldn't be like, too bad, so sad, partner.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh crap. Like,
I'll bring you something, or like
give him a school lunch and I'll send him with money tomorrow.
And you wouldn't, and this kid got in trouble afterwards when they got home for not, you wouldn't scold oh, how dare you?
That's terrible.
You forgot. First of all, if that's teaching your kid, you cannot make mistakes. That if you make a mistake, you might starve.
And life is all about making mistakes.
That's one of the first things I thought. I'm like, you're teaching this kid to like literally fear any sort of mistake. When it comes to taking care of themselves and living and trying life. You can't make a mistake. You won't get food. Oh yeah, I read that. I was like, this is so mad. Like the ways when we grew up that kids were abused were so classic, and it's shitty to talk about. But now I read stuff, I'm like, what? Yeah. How do you do this? I read this other story where this guy drugged his girlfriend and tattooed obscenities on her face. And she had to try to live and go about having a job. And in order to do that, she covered her face, like with tattoo, like with ink or something. She covered it. So she just had like this blackout face. And now she's getting it fixed by this guy who's donating his time and his everything to her to fix it for free. But the reason she had this problem was because her abusive boyfriend drugged her and tattooed her face.
Okay.
You're like, no, I'm done with relationships again. Thanks a lot, Janelle. I was into it. Now I'm not into it.
I'll just be single forever and never talk
just
to
don't date a tattoo artist who has access to drugs. You'll be fine.
I would like to think that I've done enough work on myself. I wouldn't attract another toxic relationship.
I'm assuming there was many, many more red flags about this person before this happened. Many.
Something else was going on.
So you're good. I don't think this will accidentally happen to you. I just read it. I was like, that's so messed up to do to a person. Like, just dump them. God, take their stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
Call them mean names, but don't tattoo mean names on their face.
Terrible.
Oh my God, we've been talking for like 2 hours.
I know. Like, we didn't even really talk about what we said we were going to talk about.
We didn't talk a lot about human design at all, really. So, but this is good. I think this is what we needed, probably. So
apparently. So let us know what you got out of this conversation.
I'm sure people are going to love this episode because we talked about so much random crap. But
it's like hanging out with your best friend. Just like, take us on a journey with you, like running errands. Like if you have a long jog for your training, like pop this.
That's what I'm going to title this episode. Like we're just friends talking about stuff.
Yes, this is coffee chat time.
I love it. But yeah, I think this is good, and we'll stop it here, and we'll pick up on variables maybe next time when we feel like talking about it.
Yeah.
I love how I thought we have nothing to talk about. That literally never happens. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to us, and we will be around again soon. So cryptic.